I started abusing drugs and alcohol in high school, so I was between 15 and 16 years old. As life progressed and relationships started to deteriorate, there just came this point at which I wanted to stop drinking, but I wasn't able to do so. In 1997, I was out in California. I had flown out to go to a U2 concert with a friend. The night before we went to the U2 concert, I can't help but notice that there's a convenience store across the street from his apartment complex. The road was one of those monster Bay Area roads that never seems to not have traffic on it, running both ways, and it was 6 lanes. There was no median strip, so you had to do it all at one hop. And I waited for what I thought was a good break, and as I was going across the road, I heard a car horn. Sure enough, there's somebody coming right at me. It wasn't like I was pulling somebody out of a burning building. It's not like I was taking a risk for that sort of thing. I was taking that risk so that I could get a 12-pack and a pint. And the insanity of it just came to me. At that point, I had a daughter who was 3 years old. What is a man with a 3-year-old daughter doing running across a 6-lane road to get a 12-pack and a pint? That's insane. I realized this can't go on too much longer. You can't keep living this way. My relationship with God began by simply praying, God, if you exist, you're going to have to show me something fast. But it became a day-by-day relationship where I would wake up and I would say, I'm going to not drink today as a way of inviting you into my life. And then over time, I started to get traction on sobriety where I hadn't received traction before. It wasn't until the summer of 2001 that I started attending services at the Crossing. For me, that was God inviting me into a deeper relationship in a visible way. I had never heard the Word of God preached that way, and it was so appealing to me, and I kept coming back just to hear more. I think what I began to understand was that my view of God was far too limited, and God's grace and His story is far bigger than I could have imagined. I wanted God to be Lord over my identified problem, but God ended up being the Lord over everything I have and everything I am. I started volunteering to facilitate a men's recovery group 15 years ago. It's really helpful for me to stay around people who are in the throes of addiction, not so that I can remind myself of how far along I am, because that implies that there's a difference between me and them. I like being around them because it reminds me of who I really am apart from God. Jesus is the Jubilee in my life, not just because He delivered me from drugs and alcohol and sexual immorality. Jesus is the Jubilee in my life because He continues to deliver me each and every day. He will deliver me. He has delivered me. It's just that bigger story that I lean into every day.